The orbital station called Starfall floated in the darkness of space like a giant metal flower. It was the largest training center in the known galaxy. Ships from 100 different worlds came here every day. Some brought soldiers, some brought teachers, some brought young ones who wanted to learn how to fight. Sergeant Do-hyun stood at the edge of the training hall and watched. He was a human, 32 years old, with short black hair and tired eyes. He had been a soldier for 10 years before he became a teacher. His body carried many scars. Each one told a story he did not like to remember. The training hall was huge. The ceiling was so high that small clouds sometimes formed near the top. The floor was covered with soft material that could change shape. Today, it was flat and gray. Tomorrow, it might become a forest or a mountain. The station could make anything. Do-hyun counted the trainees in front of him. There were 47 of them today. They came from 12 different species. Some were tall, some were short, some had fur, some had scales, some had skin that changed color with their feelings. They were all young. They were all here to learn. Today we practice basic sword forms, Do-hyun said. His voice was calm but strong. A small machine near his throat changed his words so everyone could understand. Find a partner. Match your size. Begin when I say. The trainees moved. They sorted themselves into pairs. Do-hyun watched them carefully. He had been doing this job for 3 years now. He knew which students worked hard, and which ones just pretended. He knew which ones were afraid, and which ones were too confident. A movement at the corner of the hall caught his eye. A small figure stood alone near the wall. It was a Valari cub. The Valari were a species that looked like a mix between a cat and a bear. They had soft gray fur, large golden eyes, and ears that moved when they felt emotions. Adult Valari were tall and strong, but this one was just a cub. She was barely half the height of Do-hyun. Her name was Riko. She was the youngest trainee in the program. Most cubs her age were still learning to read and write. But Riko was here, holding a practice sword that was almost too heavy for her small arms. Do-hyun walked toward her. His boots made soft sounds on the floor. Riko, he said gently, you need a partner. The cub looked up at him. Her ears were flat against her head. That meant she was nervous. No one wants to train with me, she said. Her voice was high and soft like a young child. They say I am too small. They say I will slow them down. Do-hyun felt something twist in his chest. He had seen this before. The bigger trainees often ignored the smaller ones. They thought size was everything. They were wrong. Then you will train with me today, Do-hyun said. Riko's ears lifted a little. Really? But you are the teacher. Teachers can also be partners. Come. He led her to an empty space on the floor. Around them, the other trainees had already started. The sound of practice swords hitting each other filled the air. Some pairs were good. Their movements were smooth and careful. Other pairs were clumsy. They swung too hard or stood too close. Do-hyun showed Riko the first form. It was simple. Just 3 movements. Block, step, strike. He moved slowly so she could see every part. Now you try, he said. Riko held up her sword. Her arms were shaking a little. The sword was heavy for her, but she did not complain. She tried the movements. Block, step, strike. Her form was wrong in many places, but she did not give up. Good, Do-hyun said. Again, she tried again. And again. And again. Each time, she got a little better. Her arms stopped shaking. Her steps became more sure. Do-hyun watched her golden eyes. He saw something there that he liked. Fire. Determination. The will to keep going even when things were hard. On the other side of the hall, a group of Tauran warriors were training together. The Taurans were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They were tall and had gray skin that was hard like stone. Their eyes were red and had no pupils. They were known for being proud and sometimes cruel. The leader of this group was named Grath. He was young for a Tauran, but already very skilled with a sword. He moved like water flowing through rocks. Fast, smooth, dangerous. The other trainees in his group could not keep up with him. Grath stopped and looked across the hall. He saw Do-hyun training with the Valari cub. His thin lips curled into something that was not quite a smile. "Look," he said to his companions. "The human plays with babies." The other Taurans laughed. It was an ugly sound. Do-hyun heard them. He did not turn around. He did not react. He had learned long ago that some people would always try to make others feel small. The best answer was to ignore them. But Riko heard too. Her ears went flat again. She missed her next strike and almost dropped her sword. "Do not listen to them," Do-hyun said quietly. "Focus on your blade. Focus on your feet. The rest does not matter." Riko nodded. She lifted her sword again, but her hands were shaking now. Not from the weight, from shame. Do-hyun felt anger rise in his chest. He pushed it down. A teacher must be calm. A teacher must set an example. "Rest for a moment," he told Riko. "Drink some water. We will continue soon." The cub walked to the side of the hall where water containers waited. Do-hyun watched her go. Then he turned and looked at the whole training hall. So many young ones, from so many worlds, all of them trying to learn, all of them trying to become something more. "Tomorrow," he thought, "I will pair the strong ones with the weak ones. They need to learn that true strength is not about size, it is about heart." He did not know that tomorrow would bring something far more important than a lesson. He did not know that in just one day, his whole life would change. The lights in the training hall flickered once. A signal that the session was ending. Do-hyun raised his hand. "Enough for today," he called out. "Clean your weapons. Return them to the racks. Same time tomorrow." The trainees began to move. Conversations started. Laughter echoed off the high walls. Riko came back from the water station. She was still holding her practice sword. "Sergeant Do-hyun," she said. "Thank you for training with me." He looked down at her. Her ears were up now. Her golden eyes were brighter than before. "You did well, Riko. Keep practicing. You will be strong one day." She smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. Then she ran off to return her sword. Do-hyun watched her go. Something about that cub reminded him of himself. Long ago, he had also been small. He had also been told he was not good enough. But he had kept trying. And now, he was here. The station's night cycle was beginning. The lights in the training hall grew dim. One by one, the trainees left. Soon, Do-hyun was alone. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, his home planet floated in the darkness. Earth. He had not been back in 5 years. Sometimes he missed it. Sometimes he did not. Tomorrow, he thought again. Tomorrow will be better. But tomorrow would not be better. Tomorrow would be the day everything changed. Tomorrow would be the day a blade fell toward a cub. And a human made a choice that the galaxy would never forget. The next morning came too fast. Do-hyun woke in his small room on the station. The walls were gray metal. The bed was hard. A single window showed the endless stars outside. He had slept badly. Dreams had come to him. Dreams of fire and screaming and blood. Old memories that would not leave him alone. He washed his face with cold water. He looked at himself in the mirror. Dark circles under his eyes. A small scar on his chin from a fight long ago. He was tired. He was always tired. But the trainees were waiting. The work must continue. The training hall was already full when he arrived. The trainees stood in rows, waiting for him. Do-hyun counted them. 47. All present. Good. Riko was there too. She stood in the back row, almost hidden behind the taller trainees. Her gray fur was clean and brushed. Her golden eyes were watching Do-hyun with something like hope. "Today," Do-hyun announced, "we do advanced drills. You will use real training swords. They are not sharp, but they are heavy. They can hurt you if you are careless. Be careful. The trainees went to the weapon racks. They picked up the new swords. These were different from the ones they used yesterday. They were made of metal instead of plastic. They felt real. They felt dangerous. Do-hyun organized them into groups. He put the skilled ones together in one corner. He put the beginners in another. He remembered his plan from yesterday. He would pair the strong with the weak. But first, he needed to see how everyone moved with the new weapons. The drill began. The hall filled with the sound of metal hitting metal. Grunts and shouts echoed off the walls. Sweat began to form on faces and bodies. This was real training. This was hard. Grath, the Tauran warrior, was in the advanced group. He moved even faster than before. His gray skin seemed to glow with excitement. His red eyes burned like coals. He defeated one partner after another. No one could stand against him. "Faster!" he shouted at his opponents. "Is this all you have? You are weak. All of you are weak." Do-hyun watched him from across the hall. There was something wrong with Grath today. He was too excited, too aggressive. His movements were becoming wild. This was dangerous. "Grath," Do-hyun called out, "control yourself. This is training, not war." The Tauran stopped. He turned to look at Do-hyun. His red eyes narrowed. "You give me orders, human?" His voice was cold. "You are just a teacher. I am a warrior of the Tauran Empire. My family has fought in 1,000 battles. Who are you to tell me anything?" The hall went quiet. Everyone was watching now. Even the beginners had stopped their drills. Do-hyun walked toward Grath. His steps were slow and steady. He showed no fear. He had faced bigger threats than an angry young warrior. "In this hall," Do-hyun said calmly, "I am your instructor. That is all that matters. Control yourself, or leave." For a long moment, Grath did not move. His hand was tight on his sword. The air was thick with tension. Then, slowly, he lowered his weapon. "As you wish, teacher." He made the word sound like an insult. Do-hyun turned away. "Continue the drill. Everyone." The training resumed. But something had changed. The energy in the room was different. Darker, more dangerous. Do-hyun could feel it in his bones. He walked to the other side of the hall where the beginners were practicing. Riko was there, trying to lift her new sword. It was clearly too heavy for her. Her small arms were shaking with the effort. "Use both hands," Do-hyun told her. "Hold it at the base. Let your body do the work, not just your arms." Riko adjusted her grip. She tried again. The sword still wobbled, but she could hold it now. "Good. Now try the first form." Slow and careful, she began to move. Block. Step. Strike. Her form was clumsy, but she was trying. She was always trying. Behind them, the advanced group was still drilling. Grath was back in the center, fighting against two opponents at once. He was winning easily. His sword moved so fast it was hard to see. His partners fell back one after another. But something was wrong. Do-hyun could see it. Grath's movements were becoming more and more wild. He was not controlling his strength. He was letting his anger take over. "Grath!" Do-hyun shouted. "Stop! You are going too far." The Tauran did not hear. Or maybe he did not want to hear. He swung his sword in a wide circle. One of his partners barely dodged. The other was hit on the shoulder and fell to the ground with a cry of pain. Grath did not stop. His eyes were wide now, lost in the heat of battle. He spun around, looking for another target. His sword was raised high, and then he saw Riko. The cub was standing alone near the edge of the training area. She had wandered too close to the advanced group without knowing. She was small. She was young. She was the perfect target for a warrior lost in his own violence. Grath charged. His sword came down like a falling star. He was not thinking anymore. He was just acting. Pure instinct, pure aggression. Riko saw him coming. Her golden eyes went wide. Her mouth opened. but no sound came out. She was frozen, like a small animal caught in the light of a predator. She could not move. She could not run. She could only watch as death came toward her. The whole hall seemed to slow down. Trainees turned to look. Some screamed. Some tried to run forward. But they were all too far away. They could not reach her in time. No one could reach her in time, except one person. Do-hyun was already moving. He had started running the moment he saw Grath's eyes fix on the cub. His body moved without thinking. Muscles trained by years of war pushed him forward. His heart was pounding in his chest. His breath was hot in his throat. He was not going to make it. He knew this. The distance was too great. The Tauren was too fast. But he ran anyway, because there was nothing else to do. Because a child was about to die. Because he could not let that happen. Time stretched. Each second felt like an hour. Do-hyun saw everything with perfect clarity. The falling sword, the frozen cub, the shocked faces all around, the metal floor beneath his feet. He was not going to make it, but he had to try. His legs pushed harder. His lungs screamed for air. The sword was coming down. Rico's small body was right below it. Gray fur and golden eyes. And a life that had barely begun. Do-hyun reached out. His hand grabbed the cub's shoulder. He pulled with all his strength. Rico flew to the side, tumbling across the floor like a ball of fur, but the sword was still coming. And now, there was no time to dodge. No time to block. No time to do anything, except make a choice. Do-hyun raised his arm. The blade hit. Metal cut through flesh. Blood sprayed across the training hall floor. Hot and red and real. Pain exploded through Do-hyun's body like lightning. He heard himself scream. Or maybe it was someone else. He could not tell anymore. He fell to his knees. His arm was on fire. Blood was pouring from the wound. The world was spinning. Dark spots danced at the edge of his vision. But through all that pain, through all that chaos, he heard one sound that made everything worth it. A cub crying. Not in pain, in fear, but alive. She was alive. Do-hyun looked up. Rico was on the floor a few steps away. Her golden eyes were full of tears. Her small body was shaking. But there was no blood on her. Not a single mark. He had made it. Just barely. But he had made it. The hall was silent now. Every trainee stood frozen. Even Grath had stopped. The Tauren warrior stood over Do-hyun with his bloody sword still in his hand. His red eyes were wide with something that might have been shock. Or maybe fear. Do-hyun tried to stand. His legs would not work. He tried to speak. His voice would not come. All he could do was kneel there on the blood-soaked floor and breathe. Then the silence broke. People started running. Voices started shouting. Someone was calling for a medic. Someone else was yelling at Grath. The world was chaos again, but Do-hyun did not hear any of it. All he could see was Rico. All he could think was one simple thing. She is safe. She is safe. She is safe. Then the darkness took him, and he knew nothing more. Do-hyun opened his eyes to white light. The ceiling above him was smooth and clean. Medical machines hummed softly all around. He was in the station's hospital wing. He knew this place. He had been here before, years ago, when he first arrived on Starfall. His left arm throbbed with deep pain. He turned his head and looked at it. It was wrapped in thick white bandages from the elbow to the wrist. Spots of red showed through the fabric. The wound was bad, he could feel that, but at least he still had an arm. A figure moved beside his bed. Do-hyun blinked and focused his eyes. It was Yuna, the station's chief medic. She was human. Like him, young, maybe 28 years old, with long black hair tied back in a simple knot. Her face was serious but kind. "You are awake," she said. "Good. I was starting to worry." Do-hyun tried to speak. His throat was dry and rough. Yuna handed him a cup of water. He drank it slowly. "How long?" he asked. His voice was weak. 6 hours. The blade cut deep. It hit bone. You lost a lot of blood. Yuna checked one of the machines beside the bed. You are lucky to be alive. A few centimeters more and you would have lost the arm completely. Do-hyun closed his eyes. The memories came back. The falling sword. The frozen cub. The choice he made. Without thinking. The girl, he said. Riko. Is she hurt? Yuna shook her head. Not a scratch. You pulled her out of the way just in time. She paused. Everyone is talking about it. The whole station knows what you did. I did not do anything special. I just reacted. You stepped between a child and a sword. Most people would have frozen. You did not. Do-hyun said nothing. He did not feel like a hero. He felt tired and broken and full of pain. Heroes were people in stories. He was just a man who had made a choice. The door to the medical room opened. A tall figure stepped inside. It was Station Commander Hyemin, the highest authority on Starfall. She was human, in her 50s, with gray hair cut short, and eyes that had seen too many things. She wore a dark uniform with medals on the chest. Sergeant Do-hyun, she said. Her voice was formal but not cold. How are you feeling? I have been better, Commander. Hyemin walked to the side of his bed. She looked at his bandaged arm. Something moved across her face. Sadness. Maybe. Or respect. I have watched the recording from the training hall, she said. What you did was remarkable. You saved that cub's life. I was just doing my job. Your job is to teach them how to fight. Not to bleed for them. Hyemin shook her head slowly. When I first heard what happened, I did not believe it. A human running toward a Tauren blade. It seemed impossible. But I saw the recording. I saw you run. I saw you jump. I saw you take that blade on your own arm so it would not touch the child. Do-hyun looked at the ceiling. I did not think about it. There was no time to think. I just moved. That is what makes it remarkable. Most species freeze in moments like that. Their minds stop working. Their bodies refuse to move. But humans. Hyemin paused. Humans seem to be different. There was a knock at the door. Yuna went to open it. Outside stood a group of people. Do-hyun recognized some of them. They were trainees from his class. Behind them were others. Instructors, station workers, people he had never seen before. Sergeant Do-hyun, one of the trainees said. It was a young Valari male with dark fur. We came to see how you are. We wanted to thank you. Thank me for what? For what you did. For Riko. She is one of us. You protected her when no one else could. More people pushed forward. They brought flowers from the station's garden. They brought small gifts. They brought words of thanks and wishes for recovery. Do-hyun did not know what to say. He had never been comfortable with attention like this. Yuna stepped in front of his bed. The sergeant needs rest. You can visit him later. Please, give him space. The crowd slowly moved back. But before the door closed, one more figure pushed through. It was small and covered in gray fur. Riko. The cub ran to Do-hyun's bed. Her golden eyes were wet with tears. She looked at his bandaged arm and her small body began to shake. I am sorry, she whispered. I am so sorry. This is my fault. I should not have been there. I should have been more careful. Now you are hurt because of me. Do-hyun reached out with his good hand. He touched the top of her head gently. It is not your fault, he said. None of this is your fault. Do you understand? But your arm. My arm will heal. You are safe. That is what matters. Riko looked up at him. Tears were running down her furry face. Why did you do it? Why did you save me? I am nobody. I am just a cub. You could have died. The question hung in the air. Commander Hyemin was watching. Yuna was watching. Everyone was waiting for his answer. Do-hyun thought about it. Why had he done it? He had not thought about it at the time. He had just acted. But now, looking back, the answer was simple. Because you are young, he said. Because you have your whole life ahead of you. Because no child should die in a training accident. Because... He paused. Because that is what humans do. We protect the young, any young. It does not matter what species they are. Rico stared at him. Her tears had stopped. Her golden eyes were wide with something new. Wonder. Maybe. Or understanding. On my world, she said quietly, adults protect only their own cubs. Not the cubs of others. Not the cubs of strangers. What you did. No one on my world would do that. Then maybe your world needs to learn something new. Commander Hiemen stepped forward. The sergeant is right. This is something I have seen many times in my years commanding this station. Humans have a strange instinct. They will risk their lives for children who are not their own. They will fight to protect the young of any species. I have never fully understood it. But I have learned to respect it. Yuna nodded. In human history, there are many stories of people dying to save children they never met. It is in our nature. We cannot help it. Rico looked at Do-hyun's arm again. The red spots on the bandage, the proof of what he had done. Thank you, she said. Her voice was small but strong. I will never forget what you did for me. Never. Just live a good life, Rico. That is all the thanks I need. The cub nodded. Then, slowly, she reached out and touched his good hand. Her small, furry fingers wrapped around his. I will be strong, she said. I will train hard. One day, I will be like you. One day, I will protect others too. Do-hyun felt something warm in his chest, something that had been cold for a long time. I believe you will, he said. Commander Hiemen cleared her throat. The Valari elders have asked to meet with you, Sergeant. When you are recovered enough to walk, they have questions. Many questions. What kind of questions? They want to understand. They want to know why a human would bleed for a Valari cub. To them, it does not make sense. Their culture is different from ours. Do-hyun nodded slowly. I will meet them. When I am ready. Rest now, Yuna said. Your body needs time to heal. The elders can wait. Rico let go of Do-hyun's hand. She stepped back from the bed, but her eyes stayed on him. I will come back, she said. Every day. Until you are better. You do not have to do that. I want to, please. Do-hyun looked at her small face, at her golden eyes, at the determination that burned there. All right, he said. I would like that. The cub smiled. It was the first real smile he had seen from her since they met. Then she turned and walked out of the room. The door closed behind her. Commander Hiemen looked at Do-hyun. You have made quite an impression, Sergeant. The whole station is talking about what you did. Some are calling you a hero. I am not a hero. Maybe not. But you have shown them something important. You have shown them what it means to be human. She paused. Rest well. We will talk more when you are stronger. She left. Yuna checked the machines one more time. Is there anything you need? She asked. Do-hyun shook his head. Just sleep. Yuna dimmed the lights. She walked to the door. For what it is worth, she said. I think what you did was beautiful. Painful and costly. But beautiful. Then she was gone. Do-hyun lay in the quiet room. The machines hummed. The stars shone outside the window. His arm throbbed with pain. But in his heart, something felt right. He had saved a life. A young life. A life that would go on long after his own ended. That was enough. That was more than enough. He closed his eyes and let sleep take him. 3 days passed. Do-hyun grew stronger. The wound on his arm began to close. Yuna changed his bandages twice a day and told him he was healing well. But he would have a scar. A big one. It would stay with him forever. True to her word, Rico came every day. She sat beside his bed and talked to him. She told him about her home world, about her family, about her dreams. She wanted to be a warrior, she said. Not to hurt people, but to protect them, just like he had protected her. On the 4th day, the Valari elders arrived. There were 3 of them. all old, all covered in silver fur that had once been gray. Their golden eyes were cloudy with age, but sharp with wisdom. They wore long robes, made of soft fabric. They moved slowly but with great dignity. Do-hyun was sitting up in his bed when they entered. Commander Hyman had warned him they were coming. He had tried to prepare, but nothing could truly prepare him for the weight of their gaze. The tallest elder stepped forward. His name was Tae-woo. He was the leader of the Valari people on the station. His voice was deep and old like ancient stone. "Sergeant Do-hyun of Earth," Tae-woo said. "We have come to speak with you." Do-hyun nodded. "I am honored by your visit." Tae-woo studied him for a long moment. His cloudy eyes seemed to see right through Do-hyun's skin and into his heart. "We have watched the recording of what happened in the training hall," the elder said. "We have watched it many times. We have discussed it among ourselves for many hours, and still, we do not understand." "What do you not understand?" "Why you did what you did. Riko is not your cub. She is not of your species. She is not of your blood. You have no bond with her. No connection. No reason to protect her. Yet you threw yourself between her and a blade. You let yourself be cut so she would not be harmed." Tae-woo shook his head slowly. "This makes no sense to us." Do-hyun thought about how to answer. The Valari were different from humans. Their culture was different. Their way of thinking was different. He needed to find words they could understand. "In my culture," he said carefully, "all children are precious. Not just our own children. All of them. When we see a child in danger, something inside us reacts. We cannot control it. We cannot stop it. We simply act." The second elder, a female named Ji-yeon, stepped forward. "But why? What purpose does it serve? If you die to save a child of another species, your own genes do not continue. Your own family does not benefit. From a biological view, it is foolish." "Maybe it is foolish," Do-hyun agreed. "But we do it anyway. Perhaps it is because we know that we are all connected. The children of today are the future of tomorrow. If we let them die, we all lose. Even if they are not our own." The third elder had not spoken yet. He was the oldest of the three. His fur was almost white. His name was Hanul, and he was said to be over 200 years old. He moved forward now, his old bones creaking. "I have lived a long time," Hanul said. His voice was thin but clear. "I have seen many species come and go. I have seen great civilizations rise and fall. And in all that time, I have never seen anything quite like what you did. Human, I am not special. Any human would have done the same. That is what makes it remarkable." Hanul looked at the other elders. "I have heard stories about humans. About their strange ways. About how they adopt animals as family members. About how they will run into burning buildings to save strangers. About how they will give their own food to others even when they are hungry. I thought these stories were exaggerations. Now I see they are true." Do-hyun did not know what to say. He had never thought of these things as strange. They were just human. "On our world," Tae-woo said, "we protect our own. Our cubs, our families, our clans. That is natural. That is right. But we do not extend this protection to outsiders. Why would we? They are not ours." "Maybe," Do-hyun said slowly, "that is something that can change." The elders looked at each other. Something passed between them. A silent communication that Do-hyun could not understand. "We have brought something for you," Tae-woo said. He reached into his robe and pulled out a small object. It was a crystal. Blue and clear. Like the sky on a perfect day, it hung on a thin silver chain. "This is a star of protection," the elder explained. "On our world, it is the highest honor a warrior can receive. It is given only to those who have risked their lives to protect a Valari life. I cannot accept this. I did not do anything to earn it. You earned it with your blood." Tae-woo held out the crystal. "Please, take it. It would dishonor us if you refused." Do-hyun hesitated. Then he reached out with his good hand and took the crystal. It was cool against his palm. Light seemed to glow from inside it. "Thank you," he said. "I will treasure it." Ji-yeon spoke again. "We have been discussing something among the elders. Your act has raised many questions for us. About our own ways. About how we treat those who are not our own." "What kind of questions?" "Perhaps our way is not the only way," she said. "Perhaps protecting only our own makes us weaker, not stronger. Perhaps there is wisdom in the human way. In seeing all children as precious, all lives as valuable." Taewoo nodded. "When I first heard what you did, I thought you were foolish. A human dying for a Valari cub seemed wasteful, pointless. But now I begin to see it differently. You did not die, you survived, and now the bond between our peoples is stronger than it has ever been." "What do you mean?" "Every Valari on this station knows what you did. Every Valari on this station has watched the recording. They see a human bleeding for one of our cubs. They see you refusing to let her die, even at the cost of your own flesh." Taewoo paused. "This is worth more than 1,000 treaties, more than 1,000 speeches. You have shown them something that words could never show." Haenol, the oldest elder, moved closer to Do-hyun's bed. He reached out with a wrinkled hand and touched the bandages on Do-hyun's arm. "This wound will become a scar," the old one said. "You will carry it for the rest of your life. But it is not a mark of shame. It is a mark of honor. It is proof that you are willing to bleed for those who are not your own. There is no greater proof of character." Do-hyun felt something wet in his eyes. He blinked and looked away. "I was just doing what anyone would do," he said. His voice was rough. "No," Hanwol said gently. "You were doing what a human would do. And that young warrior is a special thing indeed." The door to the medical room opened. Riko stood there, her golden eyes wide. She had been waiting outside, listening. "Riko," Taewoo said, "come here." The cub walked slowly into the room. She stood before the elders with her head bowed. "Look up, child," Taewoo said. "You have nothing to be ashamed of." Riko lifted her head. Tears were streaming down her furry face. "This human saved your life," Taewoo continued. "He bled for you. He scarred himself for you. Do you understand what that means?" Taewoo continued. "Yes, elder, I understand." "Good. Then remember it. Remember it for the rest of your life. And when you are grown, when you are strong, pass this lesson on to others. Tell them that a human stepped between you and a blade. Tell them that he did not hesitate. Tell them that this is what true courage looks like." Riko nodded. She walked to Do-hyun's bed and looked at him. "I will never forget," she said. "Never." Do-hyun reached out and touched her head, just as he had done before. "Grow strong, little one. That is all I ask." The elders stayed for a while longer. They talked about many things. About the alliance between their peoples. About the future of the galaxy. About the training program. And how it might be improved. When they finally left, Do-hyun was tired but peaceful. Yuna came in to check on him. She saw the crystal around his neck. "Is that what I think it is?" she asked. "The Valari gave it to me. A star of protection. I have read about them. They are very rare, very special." Do-hyun looked at the crystal. The blue light inside seemed to pulse softly. "I did not do this for rewards," he said. "I did not do it for honor, or medals, or recognition. I did it because a child was about to die, and I could not let that happen." Yuna smiled. "That is exactly why you deserve it." She dimmed the lights and left him to rest. Do-hyun lay in the quiet room. He held the crystal in his hand. He thought about Riko. About the elders. About everything that had happened. Something had changed on Starfall Station. He could feel it. The way people looked at each other. The way they spoke. There was more warmth now. More connection. More trust. And it had all started with a moment of choice. A blade falling toward a cub, a human stepping between. Maybe, Do-hyun thought. This is how things change. Not with grand speeches or political treaties, but with small acts of courage. Small acts of love. He closed his eyes and slept. And for the first time in many years, He did not dream of fire and blood. He dreamed of stars and hope and the sound of a young cub laughing in the light. 2 weeks after the accident, Do-hyun was released from the medical wing. His arm was still weak. It hurt when he moved it too fast. But the wound had closed and the doctors said he would make a full recovery in time. The first thing he did was walk to the training hall. The great room was empty. The trainees were in their afternoon classes. The lights were dim. Do-hyun stood in the middle of the floor and looked around. He could still see the spot where he had fallen. The blood had been cleaned away, but he remembered exactly where it had been. He stayed there for a long time, thinking, remembering, feeling. The door behind him opened. Footsteps approached. He turned and saw Commander Heeman walking toward him. "I thought I might find you here," she said. "I needed to see it again, to remember." Heeman stood beside him. She looked at the empty training floor. "Do you know what happened to Grath?" she asked. "No. I heard he was taken away. But no one told me the details. He has been sent back to the Tauran homeworld. He will face judgment there. What he did was serious. He lost control. He almost killed a child. The Tauran Council does not take such things lightly." Do-hyun nodded slowly. He did not feel anger toward Grath. Not anymore. The young warrior had been foolish and proud. But he was also very young. Perhaps this experience would change him. Perhaps not. Either way, it was out of Do-hyun's hands now. "There is something else," Heeman said. "Something I wanted to tell you before the official announcement." "What announcement?" "The Galactic Council has heard about what you did. The story has spread far beyond this station. Every species in the Alliance is talking about it. The human who bled for a Valari cub." Heeman paused. "They have decided to make changes to the training program." "What kind of changes?" "New protocols. New rules. From now on, all instructors will be required to teach a class on interspecies protection. Students will learn that they are responsible for each other, regardless of species. The council is calling it the Do-hyun Protocol." Do-hyun stared at her. "They named it after me? You earned it. Your actions showed them something they had never considered before. That, protecting children, all children, is not a weakness. It is a strength. It builds trust. It builds unity. It makes the Alliance stronger." "I do not know what to say." "You do not need to say anything. Just keep doing what you have always done. Keep teaching. Keep protecting. Keep being human." Heeman left him alone in the training hall. Do-hyun stood there for a while longer. His mind was full of thoughts he could not quite sort out. Later that evening, there was a gathering in the main hall of Starfall Station. All the instructors were there. All the trainees. All the station workers. Even the Valari elders came. The room was packed with beings from dozens of different worlds. Commander Heeman stood on a raised platform at the front. Behind her, a large screen showed the symbol of the Galactic Alliance. A circle of stars representing unity. "We are gathered here today," Heeman announced, "to honor one of our own. Sergeant Do-hyun of Earth." The crowd parted. Do-hyun walked forward. His arm was in a sling. The Star of Protection crystal hung around his neck. He felt the eyes of hundreds of beings watching him. 2 weeks ago, Heeman continued, this man did something extraordinary. He saw a child in danger. He did not stop to think about species, or politics, or personal safety. He simply acted. He threw himself between that child and a falling blade. He was wounded. He bled. But the child survived. A murmur ran through the crowd. Do-hyun felt his face grow warm. This act has inspired the Galactic Council to create new guidelines for all training centers. From now on, every instructor and every student will learn the importance of protecting all life, regardless of origin. This is the Do-hyun Protocol. And it begins today. The crowd began to clap. The sound grew and grew until it filled the entire hall. Do-hyun did not know what to do with his hands. He just stood there, feeling awkward and grateful and overwhelmed. When the clapping finally stopped, Heeman gestured for him to speak. Do-hyun stepped forward. His throat was tight. "I am not good with words," he said. "I am a soldier. I know how to fight. I know how to teach others to fight. But I do not know how to make speeches." A few people laughed gently. The tension in the room eased a little. "What I did in that training hall was not special," Do-hyun continued. "It was not heroic. It was just human. When we see a child in danger, something inside us moves. We cannot explain it. We cannot stop it. We just act." He paused. He looked out at the crowd. So many faces. So many species. So many eyes watching him. On Earth, we have a saying: it takes a village to raise a child. What that means is that children do not belong only to their parents. They belong to everyone. Every adult has a responsibility to protect them, to guide them, to help them grow. The room was very quiet now. Every being was listening. "I think that saying should be bigger," Do-hyun said. "I think it should not be just a village. I think it should be a galaxy. Every child, of every species, deserves to be protected. They deserve to be loved. They deserve a chance to grow up and become whatever they dream of being." He looked at Rico. The little cub was standing in the front row with the other Valari. Her golden eyes were shining. "Rico," Do-hyun said, "come here." The cub walked forward slowly. She climbed the steps to the platform and stood beside him. "This is the child I saved," Do-hyun said to the crowd. "She is young. She is small. She has a long way to go before she becomes a warrior. But I see fire in her. I see determination. I see a future leader. And I am glad I was able to protect that future." He put his good hand on Rico's shoulder. "One day," he said, "she will protect others. She will be the one standing between danger and the innocent. She will carry on what I started. That is the best reward I could ever ask for." Rico looked up at him. Tears were running down her face, but she was smiling. "I promise," she whispered. "I promise I will make you proud." The crowd began to clap again. This time, it was even louder. Some beings were cheering. Others were crying. The sound echoed off the walls and filled every corner of the great hall. Do-hyun stood on the platform with Rico beside him. He looked out at the sea of faces. Humans, Valari, Taurans, dozens of other species he could not even name. All of them united in this moment. All of them touched by what had happened. This, he thought, is what it means to be part of something bigger than yourself. After the ceremony, people came to shake his hand, to thank him, to tell him their own stories of courage and sacrifice. Do-hyun listened to all of them. He nodded and smiled and said words he would not remember later. When the crowd finally thinned, Yuna found him standing alone by a window. "You looked uncomfortable up there," she said. "I hate crowds." "I know. But you did well. What you said about the village and the galaxy, that was beautiful." Do-hyun shrugged. "I just said what I felt. That is why it was beautiful." They stood together in silence, looking out at the stars. The universe stretched before them, vast and dark, and full of mystery. "What happens now?" Yuna asked. "I go back to teaching. I help train the next generation. I hope I never have to step in front of another blade. But if I do, I will not hesitate." "And Rico?" Do-hyun smiled. "She will grow, she will learn, and one day, she will be the one telling this story to others. She will be the proof that what we do here matters. That protecting the young is not foolish or wasteful. It is the most important thing we can do." Yuna nodded. "The humans have a saying where I come from. What we do in life echoes in eternity." "I like that. I thought you might." The station's night cycle was beginning. The lights in the halls were dimming. Beings were returning to their quarters to rest. Do-hyun touched the star of protection crystal around his neck. It was warm against his skin. It reminded him of what he had done, what he had become. He was no longer just a soldier or a teacher. He was a symbol, a proof of what humanity could be at its best, a reminder that across all the darkness of space, there were still beings who would bleed for each other, who would protect the weak, Who would stand between evil and the innocent? The galaxy was vast and cold and full of dangers. But as long as there were beings like Do-hyun, as long as there were humans who would not hesitate to sacrifice themselves for a child they had never met, there was hope. And hope, in the end, was the most powerful thing of all. Do-hyun turned from the window and walked toward his quarters. Tomorrow, there would be more training, more teaching, more chances to shape the future. But tonight, he would rest. He had earned it. Outside the station, the stars burned bright and eternal. And somewhere among them, a story was spreading. The story of a human who stepped between a cub and a sword. The story of a moment that changed everything. It was a good story. It was a human story. And it was only the beginning.